Okay, awesome. Thank you. How about you, Cindy? What would you say your intimacy with the Father is like?
Wow, yeah, it's been a long time in the works, because he's had to teach me directly the whole thing. I didn't have the earthly representations really to help me along. I didn't
Wow.
know what they were. I didn't know what that was with him, really. You know, it's just those personal touches from him that I remember. You know, that lead me in that personal way. You know, it's hard to describe, but it's very much like reality, like the real world. But it's not. You know, but it's like inclinations, words. I mean, it's everything like that, but not real. But it just it leads you along the way. You know, when you don't feel loved, you feel loved. When you know, it's just when you need encouragement or words, then they come. You know, things like that.
And would you say that you feel that he is, you know, up there, far away from you, just waiting for you to mess up so he can just tell you how wrong you are?
Yeah, no. Yeah, it's definitely not that. I mean, um, there's just encouragement and love and, um, I mean, yeah, just encouragement and love. I mean, in everything, to get me to come out of my shell, to get me to, um, uh, if I cry, I won't be able to talk. You know, you know. I mean, it's just an intimacy that I always wanted in reality, even though it was never there. And sometimes I think if I really did have it, if I don't know, I would be as close to him. I don't know. I don't know. It's just something to think about.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Obviously, I get to know a little bit more of your daily walk, since we actually do this walk together. We meet for Shabbats and we feast and we do this together. So and it is I love that is such a that it's real. You know, I don't ever feel like you're speaking out of a book. You're always very open to, even though you are an introvert, so you're not like out there. You are who God made you to be, and you're beautiful in that. And but you do, when you do share, it comes out of your experience. We can tell that you do have that walk with him, and that you do hear his voice, however that sounds to you, like you know, your own voice in your head, or a audible voice at times, or you know, however he does that for you. And that is what this is all about. You know, it's if we can do everything right, and we can follow every um there's a lot of good ritual, so to speak, not from the perspective of being dead, because I do the same thing you do, Danielle, in different ways, but I do have my form and ritual every morning that I do with him. And the only thing that differs from one day to another is what he speaks into it. But I approached him the same way every morning, and I do different things. I'm very methodical, so I do things like you do, very orderly. And, but then he intervenes in the midst of all that. And it is a real, I keep my journal. And if you read my journal, every day is different, even though I do the same things. What I get out of it is, it's personal to that day. So, and that is a real relationship. I always mention, what if I would have just married my husband, signed a contract, and then walked away and lived somewhere else? I would know nothing about him, but I live with him day in, day out. That's what disciples, they did for 3.5 years. They were with Messiah. In and out, they left their families, they left their wives and children and walked with him. That was not unknown to them. People that were called by a rabbi, it wasn't just Messiah who was the rabbi. John the Baptist was a rabbi too, and those that went with him were actually saying to John, look, they're leaving, they're going now with Yeshua. And he's like, let them go, you should all go too. So but they were walking with him, they taught them how to pray. So it's not abnormal that disciples would ask Yeshua, teach us how to pray, like John taught his disciples how to pray. So it would be very common when we know that Paul was sat at the feet of Gamaliel. He literally lived with him and was discipled by him in that regard. That's what sitting at the feet meant. So it was not just come every Monday afternoon at 3 o'clock, and for an hour I'll teach you a few things and then I'll see you the next week. It wasn't like that. So it's we say in Venezuela, when people say, oh, so and so is wonderful, and then you go, yeah, live with him. Because there's something about living with someone that gives you the whole story, not just, we can be so good for an hour, even 2, but living in and out of our lives, that makes it a different story. How about you, Mary Kate? What would you say yours has been?
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I had Brent turn off some of the other things that were pulling Wi-Fi, so hopefully it'll work.
Good.
Intimacy for me has grown as I grow, kind of like Cindy. It's not something that was taught to me until I was 20 years old. I didn't know that I didn't know about the living aspect of the word. I used to believe it was just like what is written in here and that's it, and so for me it looks like visions. Like I will totally, for me, there's moments that I will be cooking and all of a sudden I'm looking at a pan of butter, but really it's like my eyes, it's as if I'm not even looking at it anymore, and I'm seeing something completely different in my mind, a totally different vision. And I'll hear, it's like my thought, the best way I can explain it is my thoughts will be taken captive and he will speak into those thoughts. And I'll see these pictures, these visions, and most of the time it's like a message that I'll either hear for myself, for my family, like what Danielle says, something I need to pray over Rhea or Isaac, or something for me and Brent, somebody in our family. Or there's many, many times, actually most of the time, it's like a message that I'm supposed to give to someone else. And a lot of the times it's someone I haven't even talked to in like a long time, And it's interesting because when I first learned that this was even available to me as a, spirit living, having a human experience, that's actually how it came to me when I asked the Father to interact with me in this way, help me to see truth for what it is and let go of the box that I put him in. The very first encounter experience I had was a vision, and it was me asking, how do you see me? You know, and I've held on to that vision and what he showed me for years and years and years. And since then, you know, now as I've grown and the Lord has chiseled away, and there's now moments that Isaac just walked in. There's moments that I'm not quite sure. Like I now have a more disciplined awareness of, okay, this was my thoughts, or this is from the Father. You know, there's a difference. Sometimes I'll hear something, I'm like, you know, I think that might have been a survival response, you know. So sorry. Intimacy looks different
Mhm.
with the toddler too.
Yeah. And, you know, I want to, have gone through, you know, what is the bride of Messiah, intimacy, and talking at the last question there is the bride is making herself ready. And you touched a little bit on that, Danielle, about what you thought it was before. And can we go back to that? What does it mean now? You know, now that we know it's not just like Esther getting all pretty up, adorned, and, you know, lather ourselves with oil and all that, which is all very symbolic, though, of what we're supposed to do spiritually. What does that mean to you now, Danielle?
I think it's really being an active participant. Again, just sort of learning the things that I know that I can do, doing them. The things that I know that I can't do or are not my responsibility, laying them at his feet and letting him do what he needs to do in his timing. But also being like the priest who is constantly serving the people, setting aside personal desires and wants and expectations and selfish gain, things like that. And really learning that if I do all these things alone, there's no point in that, because it's all about community and working together. So really just kind of learning how to, personally for me, how to trust other people and really not having such high expectations of other people, but really setting them down and letting go of all of that and being as forgiving of other people as I expect people to be forgiving of me, which is really hard sometimes. So, but lately for me, that's really what it's been. That's sort of the season that I'm in. So
I love that, because if I want to bring us back to day 4, right? We talked about the government, the authority of Messiah in our lives. It's like taking those thought captives to the obedience of Messiah. That means there is the little bumpers when we're playing bowling, right? He has set them up so that we can shoot straight and we get good muscle memory of doing right. Right? You know, we know sin is missing the mark. So he doesn't want us to sin. He wants us to get good at doing every deed that he prepared in advance for us to walk in. The more we do that, the less we need those bumpers, because we know not to go on the right or the left. We stayed on the narrow path. So, and I love that you brought in the others, because as we are ambassadors of the kingdom, we are walking out who we will fully be when we have like perfect bodies and we don't die anymore. Not that we do, we will sleep and, you know, wake up again on the other side of heaven. Since he has opened our eyes to that reality here on this side of heaven, that we don't see that second death. So, which will tie it in with the unwise and wise virgins too. But going under that authority, if I want to be like him, it's not all about me. It's you know, we've those of you that have followed the Musar and I talk about the neuroscience, we're constantly trying to decenter our ego. So it's not how can I become more, you know, what I think I should be in the flesh. This is a temporary vehicle. This is not the final destination. So why do we do this so much to this body? Like we don't want to, you know, age. We don't want to, we're constantly trying to renew this body as much as we can and hold the life in it as much as we can, to the detriment of our spiritual and emotional well-being, when the important thing is really decentering me. It's not about me, it's about the world that he has put me in, and how do I bring his kingdom into this world so people would know. That's what the priest did. You know, if we Mary Catherine sent me the one of the teachings that Dina Dai was talking about that, and she sees the bride as the priest, which is no different. We are royal priesthood. So we are, the bride is royalty, and the bride is priesthood too, because that's who he is. He is king and he is priest. He is the high priest, Messiah, and we are in him. So we are both in him. If we think about the Levites, the word Levi means to cling to cleave. So, mama baby. So as we do that, that means that we they had things that they needed to do. There was a certain age, like Messiah did at the age of 30. He started his ministry. That's when he had his mikvah, and the dove, the Spirit of God, landed on his head and said, "This is my son in whom I'm well pleased." The Spirit takes him into the desert, and we see again what happened to Adam and Eve. Remember, it was all about, that's what Titus 2 is all about, that the word of God will not be dishonored. So he is being led by the Spirit of God into the desert, and he is tested 3 times. If you're the Son of God, then da 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 da. And he answered 3 times, "It is written, it is written, it is written." So we are, as we, you know, we come into that age of priesthood, we are being prepared for that. Very interesting, 3 decades. We talked about the 3 days is resurrection, is that age of fruitfulness, when it comes that age of 30. And then there were rules. For 7 days, they had to purify themselves. They had to wear the garments that were given to them, just like it says in Revelation about us. We've been given the white garments, which are the deeds of the saints. So we've been preparing, there were deeds prepared in advance for us to walk in. That means those are the things he's been training us with, so that we can wear them, so we're not naked and ashamed. And he has dressed us with the things he has given us to do to others. They were not, all the things, all the deeds that he has given us to do are not so that I can be better, so that I can be famous, so that my name, you know, shines and it's in neon sign somewhere, that my picture is on his word, like some people like to put their picture on the Bible. And it's like, no, it's not about me. It's about his kingdom on earth, and how I served with the things he prepared in advance for me to do, to love on others, to do those things that you just mentioned. So that is how the bride is making herself ready, because it's not about how pretty I become, or how smooth my skin looks, and people say, wow, I want to look like her when I'm 80. It's not about that, or how well I do something. It is how well I love his body, how well I love the world. How am I like him? Remember the 13 attributes that we know in Exodus 34, 6 and 7. It says that we are like he is, merciful, compassionate, slow to anger, abounding in loving kindness and truth. We forgive sin, trespass, and iniquity, that all those things that we're becoming more and more like him. So what is that? I saw your eyebrows go up there. Cindy, what did I say, caught your attention and you're like,
Oh, actually, that was pretty interesting, but I think what I was doing was turning off my 3 o'clock alarm.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, I mean, I did, that's really, inspiring. I don't know. I just lost my thought. I thought of something and I lost it.
Making yourself ready. And what does it look like? Is it making you a better person, or is it you bringing his kingdom into the earth? And both, actually, because
well,
you
yeah,
become
that's
a
what I
better
was
person.
going to say, because in reality, it is that. It is that. Because as you become like better and more in line, you're able to do those duties, do those priestly duties more faithfully and fully. And it gets more, you get drawn into it more as you get more. It's like as it just like grows,
Yeah, I guess because I see a lot of the, in social media, you see a lot of the how to get, better hair, better skin, better this, better that. And it's very self-centered. It's all about me looking better. And it's, that's the world, which is fine. But is that what a good ambassador should do? I guess is my question.
Yeah, no. I found it really inspiring to think, because I never heard this or thought of it before, to think of the 10 virgins as like a view of priests. I had never heard that before. It's like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, I had heard it before. And I guess because I equate those to me are the same, because I always say we are priesthood, we're royal priesthood. I'm always saying we're priests, we're priests, we're priests. So but thinking about the wise and unwise, what Dina Dai was saying there was how the wise were the ones that were actually doing what a priest was supposed to do, following and from the get-go, following the line and the call that God had given them. So you had to be a Levite. You couldn't be from any other tribe. You had to be a Levite. And then abiding by the rules that God, he was very specific. It's not like, oh, I really don't know what I'm supposed to do. No, read Leviticus and you will know what you're supposed to do. He's very clear of what we're supposed to do. But then when Yeshua is on the earth, the Levites were not the ones in the temple. They were not part of the Sanhedrin. There was people appointed to by the Roman government. It was, it was not what God intended. It was what man had decided that it was better for them. And that speaks a lot to me, because there's a lot of things that I just think I know better than God. And I do it my own way. I know it says this, but really that doesn't apply to me, because I apply my own little logic there. So that's what she calls the unwise priests, and which was very real. That did happen. Now, nowadays, it's really thinking about, if we are Levites, we are cleaving to him, right? I can follow the word Levite as that, because if I'm royal priesthood, I cleave to him, and he is my high priest.
Right.
So then it makes it a little more applicable to us now, that all those lines have been so blurred because of the dispersion, and a lot of people don't even know which tribe they belong to anymore, or if they are part of the tribes anyhow. So that becomes very vague in that respect. But at the same time, am I acting as a priest, but I am really not. I am pretending to be somebody I am not. I'm acting in ways that really follow my desire for power and name, or whatever it is that I think is more important than him. So I'm being unwise, right? So, that goes into other arenas that the bride could go to. When we talk about the oil and not having enough oil, that means, there are deeds that he prepared in advance for me to walk in. Am I walking in them? Am I pressing my own olives and making me believe that that's the oil that he intended me to have? Or am I really doing the things that he intended me to do? And sometimes are hard, like you say, Danielle, sometimes are things that I didn't want to do, and I am asked to do, and those are hard. There are tears in pressing those olives, right? And all that is part of who he wants us to be.
Yeah, it's definitely not always easy.
No. But that is his oil. Those are the things that he wants us to do. And are we listening to him? Are we asking him, guide me? Because he gave us the Spirit of God, the RUACH HaKodesh, to guide us into all truth. And those of you that are doing the Musar, and we're doing truth for this next 2 weeks, and truth never changes. He is the truth, right? He is the way, the truth, and the life. And truth is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So, but we change, we're growing. I am not the same person that I was, when in my teens and my 20s and my 30s and my 40s and my 50s. So we literally change every decade, physically, hormonally. Therefore, our brain functions differently. Therefore, we act differently in every decade. So,
Yeah, we are at the hour mark, Simi.
Okay. So we can, so we covered, the only thing we didn't cover was the Song of Solomon, which you want to give your little input there, Mary Catherine. What does that have meant to you?
We were just I wanted to encourage anybody who is struggling with intimacy with the Lord, because sometimes in our walk we can get so not the rituals are bad or anything, but it can become a loss of the romance, a loss of the love. And I had told Simi when we were discussing this call, Song of Solomon's, the book has been in my whole journey over the years of actually being in an intimate relationship with the Lord, how when I find myself dry, the Lord just revives the passion for me there. And so it was more of an encouragement if you are feeling a loss of the romance, if you're looking for that intimacy, that's a great place to go and find it. It's like the book. And if you could look at it and read it from the perspective of the shepherd being Yeshua and you being the Shulamite woman, it's just beautiful. So that was really all we're going to say about that. And, for the sake of time, we'll stop the recording and we can have a little after party.
Yes, I love that because that is important. We talked about what it looks to us, and then with that, closing with that, it's important to see what does that look to him, so that we can enter into that, hearing from his perspective what he desires for that relationship to look like. That's awesome. Go ahead. You can